Hola, buenos días. Soy Nico.
I'm the Boston CEO.
I'm sorry?
What made you become the Boston CEO?
And today we're here for another wonderful week's worth of content. Well, yes. I'm glad that you all like the Nico Quick Chat only scam segment. In the future, I'll try to do more of those. They'll be spaced out because I usually keep my subscriptions monthly to a minimum. So if you have any people that you believe are scamming or are scams based on what they provide versus what they advertise, definitely drop them down in the comments below and I'll see if I'll subscribe to them in the future. But now that we've gotten past that, if you like this kind of content, make sure to follow me on Patreon at patreon.com/Nicosaesthetics for more exclusive videos, weekly live streams, and to be a part of the live streams, where we have a varied discussion with a varied panel depending on the week. If that sounds interesting to you, definitely tune in. And last video's comment talking about the whole Ray Potts and Lee X World scenario where it was a cabin trip from hell, it basically said when Lee retorted to Ray Potts with, "It's because you like that toxic ish." It's the truth because everything is recorded, everything is then publicized allegedly 8 months later. From what I was told, this cabin trip happened months ago and Ray Potts just decided to post it recently because Lee X World and him fell out. So I'm sitting here like, that actually alters, that completely alters the context of the video. If you posted this 8 months after it actually happened and recorded it just to put him on blast in case y'all fell out, kind of like what he did where he released that revenge tape against Anthony Uncensored when they fell out, and he basically posted a video of Anthony Uncensored painting while they were collabing. It was an entire thing. Look up Ray Potts on my channel, it's there. Point is, it kind of does shift the blame into a middle ground versus Lee X World completely at fault. But now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get on to the actual topic. Today we will be discussing Xmanican. Nico, who is that? I believe his stage name is Xavier Zane. Xavier Zane. I'm just gonna call him Xmanican because that's what I know him as. But if you had not known, he has recently been getting dragged on social media. I have discussed him twice in the past. I had to look it up. Once was 3 years ago between him and Luck Rashad, and then the other was a couple of months ago between him and Yardie Style, where Yardie Style basically blew up on him because he said he didn't enjoy how the first collaboration they did was very aggressive and disrespectful, and that he would try not to collaborate with him in the future, even though he still respects him as a performer. Now, this time he is getting dragged for something that he actually said, where he came out and said, "I wish more white performers were attracted to me." And from there, it took a spiral. Nico, what do you mean? Not only the homoteps, but anybody that had an opinion hopped into this conversation, and he had to later on explain in detail. But basically, the pushback is as you would have guessed. Most people were saying you shouldn't be seeking white validation. Most people were saying, oh, this is pathetic. Most people were saying, don't you already film with white and white adjacent men? Why are you even saying this? I guess the light skin didn't save you this time. I was reading some of these comments and I'm like, you would think this man just held somebody up for ransom. Like, what? What is going on? But he basically later went on to say that he said this because he currently lives in Hollywood. If you did not know, that's in LA, California. Basically, it is predominantly white content creators. So he was saying that he wished people in his own area were more open-minded, seeing as how it is difficult to collaborate with people as a person of color if you do not fit the societal pedestals of black beauty, meaning if you are not tall, athletic, usually a darker to brown skin, and a top. Because a lot of people still hold black men to those stereotypes if they are going to film and or be intimate with them. But before I come to his slight defense, because girl, I'm gonna have to address what he said and what happened prior, people begin to bring up his past. Because if you did not know, Xmanican, he does film with everybody. He has filmed with black, white, Latino, Middle Eastern, like he is very much open to anybody and an equal opportunist. But people begin to bring up some of his more questionable collaborations, seeing as how somebody brought up Big Man C. Basically, they brought him up, and if you do not know who he is a white performer who recently got into it with multiple black performers, because not only does he indulge in race play, but he is also racist outside of race play. Nico, because whenever I say race play usually carries some underlying tendencies that you already have in your mind and you're just unleashing it in a sexual connotation, a lot of people are like, you can't say that. It's just, it's just a fantasy. They're just bringing a fantasy to life. But as soon as he fell out with multiple black content creators, he began to call them the hard ER in text messages and online. So, I mean, who's to say? Who's to say what someone's true intentions are? Anyways, point is, someone brought up how he had done a collaboration with Big C, and he was like, I actually did not know that he recently became such a far-right racist, but thank you for alerting me. And then they also brought up a tweet that he put out ages ago where he said that it was hard to find attractive black bottoms like this. And he was talking about, I believe, his biracial co-star, and basically saying that there are not a lot of attractive black bottoms in the industry to film with, so it's difficult for him to do black on black content. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, he is a biracial man. If you did not know, he is fairly light-skinned. He looks racially ambiguous. So to come online and complain that white men are not attracted to him, seeing as how I believe he's like 5'5", 5'6", slim and light-skinned, he does not fit the archetype that is usually fetishized within the adult cinematography community. So I can understand his aspects on that, seeing as how he also said he lives in Hollywood. And as somebody who visits LA every now and then, I haven't been in almost a year, but when I did, when you go out there to work, it is 95% white content creators and or white adjacent. So I'd imagine that would also be limiting if he's not fitting the archetype that they actually want to collaborate with. Now, I do agree that going online and begging for white acceptance and or saying, oh my god, why don't white men want me, is very pygnisha. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with going online and begging for any form of acceptance from a man. That's just something I don't believe in. But I also understand that when it comes to content creation, interracial content has a larger market. Hear me out, because I know some people are up in arms already. As a performer, I always tell y'all, personally, white people are not my sexual preference, for the sole fact that as a black man, I had to basically unprogram the Eurocentric standard of beauty from what I was taught growing up as a young LGBT member. If we look at LGBT media, white men are usually the people that they put as the romantic option. They put them as the lead cast. They put them as the only visible image of the queer community. So a lot of people of color grow up thinking that they are not good enough, grow up not having a proper space to call their own. I'd say it's recently changed within the last 10 years, especially with the advancements of social media. You are more easily able to find your community. You're more easily able to build connections with other black and brown people and find people who have the same interests as you. But we are still a minority within a minority, and we are also fetishized. So when you take that into consideration, our market to our own community is naturally small. So if you do want to branch out, you tend to have to do collaborations with people of other races. Not strategically, but it does help. As someone who does collaborations with everybody, I've filmed with African Americans, I've filmed with Brazilians, I've filmed with white people. It really shows you how people react to your content based on the analytics when you perform with a specific person and or group. So as a content creator, I definitely understand that, but where he made the mistake is he came online, he made a vague statement, and it was piss poorly written. Meaning, if you knew your intentions were to say, I wish more content creators within my area were attracted to me, why would you go online crying, I wish more white men was attracted to me? So I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt as someone who looks at analytics from performers, but at the same time, you could have done a better job at describing that. Not to mention when it came out that when you have collaborated with white people in the past, they ended up turning out to be racist, and or you go online saying that you can't find enough attractive black people to collaborate, even if you kept it to black bottoms. I'm not gonna let that get a pass, because at that point, it's throwing too many variables into a situation that was already vague and murky. But now that we have all of the information at hand, I definitely want to hear your opinions down below. How do you feel about black and brown content creators coming out and saying, I wish that we are more attractive to other races. How do you feel about them in the same breath, saying that not many performers of their own race are attractive enough to film with? Because when those things are put side by side, it makes you see that he might have a gear and or an adoration more towards white and lighter skinned people, but I'm going to leave that part of the dialogue up to y'all, seeing as how I'm trying to understand. Because once again, I look at analytics, I collaborate with everybody under the sun, but you will not see me online begging for white people to find me attractive. I have to tell you to stand up at that point. And in my closing statement, because some people get confused, me saying I unprogram myself from the Eurocentric standards of beauty does not mean I don't find white people attractive. There are attractive people in every race. It's me saying I do not put white people as the pedestal of beauty for the sole fact that they have white skin. It doesn't faze me, because when we have these conversations on my channel, we can look back at the Nigerian man that came out and said that when he's attracted to white and I believe he said Mexican men, he lowers his standards so that one of them will find them attractive. But when it comes to a black man, he has top tier standards. He has to be tall, he has to be muscular, he has to also be Nigerian, and there's a double standard. So we need to take all these into consideration while we're having this conversation. But with that being said, I'll leave the conversation up to y'all, and I will see you guys next time. Boop. And now for a brief yet sincere shout out to this week's Third Eye Tier subscribers, Jermaine W. and Daddy Darnell. Thank you for your continued support, and thank you once again to everyone who supports the channel. We are almost at 43K girlies. And this week's livestream discussion will actually be an LGBT series watch party, where we watch a few episodes and or a movie and then discuss its representation and impact. If that sounds interesting to you, definitely tune in. It kind of does shift the blame. It kind of does shift the blame into a middle ground versus imagine that would also be limiting. So I'd imagine that would also be limiting